Do you like baseball?
And it's very boring. It's a very boring sport.
But it's like boring on purpose.
But that's a dumb thing to do.
So, you know
you
how
could be exciting.
People are always talking about second screen content. I actually heard a very depressing news thing that like Netflix or one of those like content companies was going to start making content to be the second screen. So background, basically garbage TV that you can put on while you scroll your phone.
That's great.
And I feel like that's baseball. Like, put a baseball game on in the middle of the day. You don't have to watch it.
Right.
You don't have to sit there and go, okay, here we go. You just
I
put
sit
it
there
on.
with my little program, my little
Exactly.
pencil.
You don't have to keep a book.
Oh, okay.
Just put it on, turn the volume up, and then do your chores or answer emails. And then when you hear the crack of a bat, you look up and you go, oh, sick. Action. You watch a little bit of action, and then you go back to whatever it was you were doing.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sound like good.
It is good.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I love baseball.
Because what if it was like, I'll just have quiet time instead and get almost the same thing out of it. Except there won't be a crack of the bat every like half hour.
There won't be excitement. There won't be something to root for. There won't be like, wow, the marvel of the human body. Wow.
That's true. The
happening
marvel
live in front of me.
That's true. I mean, listen, when there's something so spectacular, Jim Abbott pitching a no-hitter with one hand, amazing.
That's it. That's
amazing.
The last time you were enthused by baseball.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And also, my dad, for all of my life, showing up because I went to a lot of baseball games growing up.
Yeah.
And I like going to a game. Like, that's a great time.
Yeah. Okay.
But especially because we only ever went to Yankee Stadium, and regardless of who they were playing, he only ever wore his Red Sox hat.
Yes.
And so it's like Detroit Yankees.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He's got a Red Sox hat on.
It's my dad, no matter what, will say Yankees suck.
Two favorite teams.
We're at like a Bruins game, and he's like, Yankees suck. And you're like, this has nothing to do with that.
Right. Two top teams.
But they do suck.
Red Sox, whoever playing the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like he'll sit there. And I brought him to a game, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
To be like, you know what, Pop? This time I got the tickets, right?
Wow.
And we went and we sat down.
And the new Yankee Stadium?
In the new, yeah. You don't love it.
No, it's like a mausoleum. It's like a here's how great we used to be. Okay?
That's true. That's
sick.
Yeah.
What about now?
But then he sits there and he just has people turning around and looking at him because anytime the Yankees do anything bad, he loudly cheers. And anytime anything bad happens to the Yankees, and anytime they do anything good, he's the one guy going, boo!
Sick. I love your dad.
Yeah.
Like, just off this limited... I love your dad.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, we would be friends.
Yeah, my 8-year-old son went over to the house the other day and said that he liked or in October probably, and said that he liked the Yankees, and he called him a homer. He called my son a homer. And my son had to come to me and say, Dad, what's a homer?
What's a homer?
Yeah.
You're like, well, in what context,
Right,
son?
Right. My wife is like, why is your dad like insulting our son? Like, it's just a game. I go, no, this
he needs to learn a lesson.
And I was in support of my dad in that.
Yeah, he needs to learn a lesson.
Right. You can't just be running around throwing out team names thinking you're safe.
No.
Not in these streets.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Certainly not. No.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's exciting. Shohei Ohtani's very exciting.
He's very exciting. Translator's also very exciting.
Well,
that guy's going to jail.
He sure is.
I can't believe they're making him pay and sending him to jail.
I know.
Like, he's got a huge amount of money he's got to pay, and he's also got to... Is he going to jail for like 4.5 years or something like that?
Yeah, I thought my mind is saying 5, but it's probably something like 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 years, and then he's also got to
pay. How much is it?
It's millions.
I know.
$17 million and nearly 5 years in jail. I would think one or the other.
Right. I think so too. Especially because it's like, I don't know. He lost a lot of he lost a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And he's
got to pay 1.1 to the IRS.
Interesting.
Now we're at 18.
That's an interesting wrinkle. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Imagine having you get through that debt.
Can we if we're getting rid of government stuff, can we get rid of that?
That would be sick.
I mean, probably ultimately it wouldn't be, but it would make April a lot less stressful.
This year would be awesome if they were just no more taxes.
No more taxes. You'd be like, sick. And then in like a couple, I think we'd go, oh, that's why we did that.
It'd be tough. Like, can I have anything? They'd be like, no, nothing.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
But
just
for a few years, I would celebrate it.
That'd be
would
great.
Celebrate the downfall of the IRS.
That's right. It'd be so much disposable income.
Yeah, it's all mine. I get to keep it all. Remember that first time you got like your adult check and you saw what they took out and you were like,
What?
Huh?
When do I get the
and
rest?
They're like, well, we give you back like a little tiny pittance of it.
Yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to, speaking of baseball, you got to spent some time in the broadcast booth.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
I would have liked to.
Yeah,
It was okay.
Okay.
It was
They spoiled it for you.
Well, here's the thing. It got me back into baseball.
Yeah.
It was a weird opportunity that when it came through, I said to my agent, I was like, they must mean somebody else. No one's ever looked at my body of work and said, get her in the booth.
Right.
It's not what I do. I'm like on the verge of sports and comedy. I'm about like making it funny and fun and enjoyable. I'm not
It's an
here to
entertainment show about sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not here to analyze at all. So why would they want me in a booth? And Apple was like, no, we really, so I said no. And they were like, no, we really, let us get on the phone with you and explain to you our vision for it. And I was like, okay. And this is Apple's first foray into sports. They hadn't done anything in sports yet. So that alone made it a valuable call to listen to if you can be at the forefront of something in sports, a company like Apple. And they called and they were like, listen, games aren't getting any shorter. Everybody's complaining the games are too long. But then we're watching people basically watch 3-hour-long podcasts on YouTube. And so why, if they'll do that when visually there's nothing happening, what if we just made like an interesting sports podcast during the baseball game? And I was like, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Like a broadcast that doesn't take itself that seriously, that's like talking about other things in baseball while the baseball game is happening. And then when action happens, we've got a play-by-play guy and but like mostly it's about having a conversation throughout the entirety of the game. So I was like, sick. And they were like, great. By the time we had agreed, that was like 1 week before the season started. And so I was like, okay. And so we'll just do it, right? So then I learned that first week that Apple is the one broadcasting it. But because they'd never done sports before, they were using MLB Network crew and trucks and all the established, like the whatever, to make it work. And so it was basically an MLB Network production. Now, I love MLB Network, but MLB Network is a baseball fan's baseball coverage. It is the purest baseball. It is like invoking memories of you and your dad and the old game and the crack of the bat and I'm not that. I'm just not that. And so pretty quickly it felt like being the third person in a booth is already like you can do it with two. So 3 is kind of already your extra. And the first game, the baseball fans, diehard baseball fans, did not like it at all. Like actively rejected it, and then it became women don't know anything about sports, and this woman is proof. And so immediately I'm like, well, that's not going to be my legacy going out. So I spent, these were 1 game a week. I would do Friday. It was a Friday night game every week. Dan can attest to this. I would watch baseball and study baseball and like quiz myself on my 2 teams leading up to the game all week long. And then Friday would come and I would just be so overwhelmed with like notes and knowledge. And I didn't like relax and enjoy the game. Like I didn't feel like I was getting to watch the game and like I wanted to get out of the way of the guys that had like important stuff to say. And so it just kind of became like I'm grateful for it. I'm glad I did it. But if you're like putting it in a list of things that I'm like happy, like proud of my performance of in my career, it wouldn't probably make the list. But look, the seat that you get to sit in to watch baseball, to call the game, is the best seat in the house. And so I got to go to all these parks I'd never been to. I got to find out that at Arizona, the Diamondbacks park, they have the best iced coffee of any baseball park in America.
Really?
So good. And it was a cool experience. And the guys I was in the booth with, Steven Nelson and Hunter Pence, and Heidi Watney was our on-field correspondent, who was like like the Red Sox girl when I was growing up. So it was like starstruck by her. They were so nice. They were so like, they were rooting for me. I could tell they really were. I don't know that I did my best for them. I tried, but it was an impossible task that I took on. I'm glad I took it on. And I certainly learned a lot from the experience, but I don't think I'll probably be back in a booth.
And it is a cool thing just to be in a booth and see, oh, this is how this feels.
Yes.
Right?
It's also how this works. So now when I'm watching games, I'm like, oh, this happened. Like I can tell what's like, I'm like, oh, he wanted him to talk. Like when Tom Brady had it was his first year in the booth this year. And it was interesting for me listening to it because I was like, obviously, we're coming from very different backgrounds when we go into the booth. But I could hear moments where they were like, you could tell Kevin Burkhardt wanted Tom to talk here, and Tom doesn't have anything to say, so it's just silent. And then Kevin will start talking.
Yep.
And so I was like, I recognize that because there was a lot of times that like people in the booth, like Steven would look at me and go like,
right.
And I'd go, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to say. I'm so sorry.
I have nothing to contribute.
I don't have that card in front of me right now.
Yeah, but that is, I mean, a tough thing when you're in a position where this thing that was the goal
Immediately abandoned.
And now you're so caught up in studying and figuring out like you're not thinking about your performance or just being natural.
Yes,
anymore.
Which is all I am.
You have to be natural.
All I am is like put me in a room and I can be in that room and make that room entertaining. Like that's what I like doing.
Right.
And so in that role, I wasn't in the room. I was in my head. I was stressed out. As soon as it became obvious to me that like the idea I was pitched was not going to be like prioritized in terms of the production. Like no one was going to go, okay, last week we went really sports heavy, but this week let's get back to that podcast thing. Like it wasn't, no help was coming. It was, I was seeing Apple like once every 6 weeks, they would send somebody to be like, hi, how's it going? And that was it. And so I was like, okay, this is an MLB Network thing. I just have to not drown. And so it became about like staying relatively afloat instead of like swimming and showing off how I can swim. It was like constant, gasping for air.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was very tough.
That's a wild thing. You've had so many experiences.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to see it as like, dude, you called a Red Sox game at Fenway Park. Like,
yes.
It sure, people were mean to you online, but like, it was cool.
Right.
It was a very cool thing. And it really did reinvigorate in me my love for sports because the Red Sox pissed me off for a couple years there. Sure. And the way I took it out on them was I was like, screw the Red Sox. We had our golden years. I got my championships. It was like formative in my life. And maybe now is time for me to step back from the Red Sox, which of course then that was when I got offered that gig a couple years later. And I was like, I have not been paying attention to baseball like that. I've been pretty pissed off at ownership for getting rid of Mookie Betts. So it was, but it got me back in, and now I'm so passionate about it. I yell at you about how you don't watch it. Right. So it's like I'm back. I'm fully back in baseball. So that's good. A lot of good will come from it ultimately.
Yes.
But in terms of jobs, certainly the hardest one that hopefully I'll ever do, but that I've done so far.
You did great on Jeopardy.
Thank you. That was the most fun I've ever had.
I would imagine.
I'm obsessed.
I was thinking that you look like...
I'm obsessed with Jeopardy.
You love Jeopardy.
Dan and I watch Jeopardy when we eat meals. So every night, if he's on the road, we'll save them up. And so we have them on DVR. So we DVR Jeopardy. We're a little behind right now, but only by like a week or so.
I mean, that's literally adorable.
We love Jeopardy.
Yeah.
We love it. And like, there's things I've learned from watching Jeopardy. Where like I didn't know them, but they've used it enough on enough of the episodes that I'm like, oh, we know this is Alexandria because we didn't know it before.
When did you and Dan just settle into being like an old married couple?
Right away.
That's what it strikes me as. Like,
right away.
We found our people.
Yep.
This is what we're gonna do.
I was thinking about this the other day because we we're trying to get better about this, but we currently order any meal we need. That's how we eat. We don't cook. We're not people who know how to do that. Truly, I don't know if Dan knows how to work a lot of the stuff in the kitchen. I'm just being honest.
Sure.
And so, like, it would fall on me. And then I was in that weird spot where I didn't have a job. And I was, like, really resistant to the idea that I'd become the, like, woman who cooks the meals and does the laundry while Dan goes off and works. So, like...
You didn't want to go full trad wife.
Right. And so I was probably too much raging against that and being like, no, I'm a woman who works. I just don't have a job. So why was I telling you that we order every meal? Oh, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, when did we both just become okay with waking up and ordering breakfast? Like, we should feel ashamed.
Breakfast included.
Sometimes.
That's wild.
Not every day, but sometimes.
Many days.
And because we're a breakfast dinner family. We don't really lunch.
Wow. But like you'll Uber Eats a breakfast?
Yeah. Isn't that awful? But we never had that moment where we had
horrible.
there was no shame. We just both, that's most things. Dan and I.
I mean, just eggs and bacon in a pan.
No, no. Well, we could do that. But then, first of all, no one talks about this. Your house smells like bacon all day.
Bacon smells amazing.
I know, but all day?
Well, I don't think it lasts all day.
It does.
Crack a window?
Lasts all day. Maybe. We're pretty high up. No, Dan and I just fit. We are indoor cats. All we want to do is sit in comfy clothes and watch something or play something or eat something. Like, we don't really want to do too much.
So you must have been furious when he took the living room as his podcast studio. So now you actually have to go to a real podcast.
The office.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was supposed to be our office. There's 2 desks in there, and then there's the couch and that's his. So we both have PlayStations. His is in that room. Mine's in the living room.
That's amazing.
And most times, like we'll play almost every night. We play the Rocket League. Do you know what Rocket League is?
I do know what Rocket
We
League
play.
is.
They have a
That's
12
so
o'clock.
funny.
They have a midnight tournament. It's a 3-on-3, and so it's me, Dan, and my brother who lives in Chicago.
You guys are playing on separate.
On headsets, on separate in different rooms.
I mean, this is amazing.
I know, but that room has basically become like his room.
Sure.
And I do miss having like an office. Like if something's happening, I'd like to go into the office to handle it. But
now
instead,
it's
that's Dan's
Dan
playroom.
and homeless pimp are in
Yes,
there.
yes, exactly. And so I wanted mine to be in a studio because I was like, I don't want people to look and go, this looks just like that podcast Soder. That like, there's not another wall. It's just a tiny. We live in New York City,
Right.
so it's not like a huge apartment with like a lot of, good-looking walls. And also, I mean, when the pandemic first hit, when we were in Hoboken, and I had to like be on ESPN on my webcam on Zoom, surrounding me, like what I could see was mess. I'm a very messy person, and that was my depression house. So all of my clothes were like on the floor, and so I'd be on ESPN, like saying whatever I'm saying, looking at like just piles and piles of clothes, and it felt so strange to be like, no one knows.
Right.
They think that I've just got a plain wall behind me. I am sitting amongst years of mess that we had to move out of. So we got out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that sometimes. I have a studio that I built in the basement.
Yeah.
And the studio itself, it looks amazing, if I do say so myself. But it's like totally, it's a corner of the room.
Yeah.
Completely professional. You can't tell it's in a basement. Like, it looks like Sam's got a real legit studio. But I mean, Troy, you've been down there. It looks like everything around it looks like, oh, this needs to be on that show Hoarders. Like, it's just piles everywhere. Except there's a path.
Yep.
So guests can come in. There's
exactly
a path to get
what
to the
it looked like in
studio.
our yes.
Yes, and then once you're sitting in the studio,
amazing.
You're
Looks
in
great.
it.
Right.
You're on a show.
The lights keep you from seeing what's back there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and everything gets darkened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Katie, you're the best. Casuals is available every Tuesday and Thursday, everywhere you get podcasts.
You do not need a SiriusXM, but you can buy one and let me know.
But by the way,
You
if
should
you
have
are
one 'cause you're listening to this.
you already have one.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
So, but that
that's
said,
fine.
it's in the SiriusXM app.
That's where you can go get it.
That is it.
The best app.
We were talking to Jason Ellis about that. Sirius listeners, a lot of them are averse to podcasts because they like they're Sirius.
Yeah, and I get that.
You know what I mean?
I get
so, for our purposes, it's in the Sirius app.
It's right there.
You can pretend it's one of your Sirius shows.
Exactly. But it's one that you can listen to whenever you want to.
Right.
You don't have to wake up at an ungodly hour of 10 a.m.
But if you're watching this later on YouTube, you can get it anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere you want. Except
Right.
YouTube. Oh, God. We're not full video yet. But we will be eventually.
You are going to do full video.
We will eventually.
At
but
some point.
Currently, Sirius
What are we
was
waiting
like,
for?
Well, Sirius was like, we need to hit our audio numbers. And if you hit them on YouTube, they don't count them. So I was like, well, I don't want to
doesn't
be
count
accused of Sirius.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, so it's an audio. We had agreed on an audio podcast. So we're making an audio podcast. But every comment on everything is like, where is this on YouTube? So we'll be there. We'll be there. But we're not there yet.
Okay, we'll get there. Get the numbers up on audio.
Yeah,
if you
gotta.
really want it on YouTube,
Then pump it up.
get the numbers up on audio.
Yes.
Okay?
Exactly. In the SiriusXM app.
In the SiriusXM app or any other app.
Or
you
anywhere.
podcast, wherever you
Anywhere
want to
you
do
get
it.
your
Well, yeah, Katie, come back.
Okay, thank you for
Anytime.
having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I don't know if you'll come back because you have to get up at
I can do
9:30
it.
again.
I can do
Can
it.
you
I
do
mean,
it?
I think I can do it.
All right. If
I
you
think
need
I can handle it.
if you need purpose
Yeah.
and a reason to wake
Something
up,
to do.
we'll be here.
Good to know.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.